So let's explore this further with Master Builders New South Wales Executive Director, Brian Seidler. Brian, thank you for your time. Can you please explain to our viewers just exactly what it would mean for self-employed tradies if they were brought under these proposed IR reforms?
Well, to put it in some context, we're now talking about 1 in 5 workers in our industry. So as you identified, there's about 260,000 individuals in our industry who work independently, who actually respond to the needs of our industry, and that's flexibility. And without flexibility, I must say that during the pandemic and during COVID-19, if we did not have the flexibility from people in the industry, we would have not been able to achieve what the economy is now, where the economy is now. And so 1 in 5 or 260,000 individuals would have no direction, and indeed I think the productivity of Australia will dramatically suffer.
So Master Builders Australia has put a submission to the Department of Workplace Relations, and it says, among other things, independent contractors should have the right to choose the hours they work, what projects they work on, and be allowed to negotiate their own fees and conditions. Now that shouldn't be a controversial proposition if you ask me, but given there are so many self-employed tradies in this country, it's a lot of people whose rights to be self-employed and to work as a contractor that would be eroded. What's this going to mean in practice for those people who aspire to run a business of their own, be their own boss?
Let's suggest that those individuals find themselves on a contracted, employment relationship rather than an independent contracting relationship. The cost of labour will absolutely increase. There is no argument about that. We have a situation where the entrepreneurial position, the fact that the basis on which the building and construction industry has been built for some 150 years has all been on entrepreneurial and aspirational independence. And now to bring those people under a contract of employment, productivity will suffer, and the cost of labour, particularly in the residential sector, will start to increase.
It strikes me that this is repeating all of the mistakes that have been made in relation to the deeming of people who are independent contractors as employees in the occupational health and safety space. But not content with making the error in one place, they've decided to expand it. The government has said this second wave of IR reforms is set to focus on the rights of gig economy workers, but how will the definition of gig economy be drawn?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We're finding that we are on the understanding that construction and other industries that have enjoyed the individual and entrepreneurial approach would be excluded from, I guess, the classification or definition of the gig economy. But that is certainly not the case as it stands today. And we are seeking clarification, but there has been no clarification at this point.
That's pretty troubling. What's been the response from the government so far? I mean, you said you haven't heard much, but has there been a quality consultation process?
Look, the consultation paper, this is a second tranche of IR reforms, came out about 3 weeks ago, and it wasn't answered in that discussion paper. In fact, the definition of independent contractor and what it actually meant really caused us at Master Builders a lot of concern, and that has not been clarified at this point.
Okay. All of this comes right as the building and construction industry is, let's face it, struggling. There's a lot of uncertainty right now with rising interest rates, rising costs of building, and the effect that both of those things can have on the confidence of people, leading to concern about how many new starts there will be in terms of new building projects. These new changes could just compound all of those issues more. Is that your expectation?
That's certainly our expectation, that if there's no clarity in who's an employee and who's a individual contractor, there will be hesitation, absolutely, particularly for the mums and dads and in the residential sector where a lot of our independent contractors live and work. And so if suddenly they could be roped in to an exercise of that you are suddenly considered or deemed an employee, and look, your comments earlier about a unionised workforce, it's no secret that for decades the union movement has wanted to get into areas such as the residential sector, and this would be a quite easy way to do that if suddenly subcontractors or independent contractors are deemed employees.
Yeah, it's just that what troubles me is that it seems Labor would rather kill this sector as a whole in order to unionise it, rather than accept that people should be able to live according to their own terms. It's not just the construction industry that's up in arms about this. The Mineral Council of Australia has also hit out at the proposal. That's two of our biggest industries now standing together against the government here. That's a pretty powerful show of concern. What will happen if this attempt to turn back the IR clock is ultimately pushed through across both sectors?
Well, it's quite clear that we are returning with the whole IR agenda back decades to where it was in the 70s and certainly the 80s. And so the one thing you can rest assured that if this gains traction and we see the removal of independents and independent contractors across Australia, that the cost of doing business for the building and construction industry will get higher. That's one thing, that the cost of labour will get higher, the cost of building homes will get higher, and of course the cost of doing business will get higher.